Hello, everyone. I just want to welcome you back to my YouTube channel. Today is April the 16th, and it's a little after 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so today's posting is going to be a political pause, which I haven't done one of these in quite a while. And the enemy must really not want me to get this done because I just recorded the entire video, which was about 30 minutes. And when I went back to listen to it, I had no sound, even though it appeared as though it was recording. So I'm having to start all over, but that's okay. That's exactly what I'm going to do. So today's political pause is going to be about the I'll say mistreatment of human rights activists in Saudi Arabia. Okay, so I'm going to tell you guys like how this situation came about. So probably more than a year ago, I saw a video that came across my YouTube page called "The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia," and it was an interview by Frontline. And towards the end of the interview, they highlighted some circumstances surrounding some human rights activists in Saudi Arabia, and specifically as it related to trying to get the ban of women driving there lifted. And so at that particular time, I felt a little prick in my heart about the situation, but I didn't feel like it was the right timing. A lot of times when that happens, I'll wait until it comes up again. And if it comes up again, then I know it's the Lord wanting me to do something or say something, and I go forward from there. So probably about 6 months ago now, it came back around. That video resurfaced again. And I watched the video in its entirety, and once again, I just felt like this impression, like, the Lord wanted me to say something and to make the public aware of the situation. Um, so again, I didn't feel like it was the timing. So then it was just a matter of waiting on the timing. And probably about 2 months ago now, I felt like the Lord was giving me a release to do it. And what prompted that was me seeing a separate article concerning a woman in Saudi Arabia, I believe, who was a human rights activist that had been released. And so when I saw that, and this was a different woman, totally different situation, I just felt like the Lord was saying it was time for me to go ahead and get this done. So it has taken me an extra 2 months to get this taken care of. I don't know why. It's just been really difficult for me to get this one done for some reason. So I apologize for it taking so long. But having said that, I'm just gonna go ahead and dig into the story and just kind of give you some details about what happened. I'm not here again to cast stones. I'm simply trying to bring awareness to a situation that made me pause. It made me stop and reflect on what was going on in this situation, and perhaps it'll do the same for you. So, once again, I am recording outside, so if you hear noise in the background, it's traffic. So just be mindful of that. Um, okay, so in this video, and again, the name of the video is The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and the interview was done, or it was done by Frontline, and it's a YouTube video. Okay, so what prompted this particular situation in Saudi Arabia was in 2014, there was a young lady by the name of Lujane Al Hathluel, and she posted a video of herself driving from UAE to Saudi Arabia. Again, this was back in 2014. Upon her returning to Saudi Arabia, she was arrested and held for 13 days. Sorry, give me 1 second. And then was released. During this time, they were in the process of passing the law there concerning women being allowed to drive. But in the middle of, while they were waiting for this law to be passed, she, along with several other activists, were arrested. Well, were arrested again. Well, she was arrested for the second time. And they were held at Dakban Central Prison. Okay, so there was one report that stated, and there were some men as well that were detained during, that were human rights activists and also detained. So the names that were listed with her, there were 5 other persons detained with her and held at Dakban Central Prison. There was one report that stated there were 12 women and 3 men that were human rights activists there that were arrested. And then there were some other human rights organizations that reported that it was far more than that. So we don't have a clear number of exactly how many activists were arrested, but nevertheless, there were quite a few that were arrested and detained. Okay, with respect to Lou Jane, the second time that she was arrested in the middle of the day, reportedly by 5 men and women, and she was taken from her bedroom. It was reported that her family was not allowed to visit her for several months while she was incarcerated at the prison. When they finally got released to see her, they did go and visit. Upon visiting her, it was reported that she appeared to be weak, that there were red marks on her face. They questioned her as to whether or not she had been tortured. Initially, she denied it, but when her parents continued to press her, she broke down and started crying and admitted that indeed she was tortured. She showed them her thighs, and her thighs had been burned. And it was stated that she feared or had been told that she was going to be thrown into the sewer system. Now, when all of these women were arrested, and some of them may have been men, I'll give you all of the names that I found. Again, her name was Lujane Al Hathluel, Samar Badawi, Aziza Al Youssef, Iman Al Nafjan, Shadan Al Onizi, and Naf Al Dasari. So these were the names that I found that were mentioned in the YouTube video that were arrested at the same time as Lou Jane was. And they were all human rights activists. It was reported that while they were incarcerated, there was abuse and mistreatment. And it was stated they were all endured some form of torture, sexual harassment, and assault. That they were often stripped naked, and sexually assaulted and placed in solitary confinement. There was also a report that they had been electrocuted as well, and these were some of the abuses that was reportedly happened to all of them while they were incarcerated. Okay, so during this time when the women were arrested, their pictures were also posted in the Saudi Arabian newspaper with the word traitor printed across their faces. This abuse that was going on within the prison system, it was reported to human rights organizations outside of Saudi Arabia. However, when Lujane asked if they were going to be able to protect them or protect her, they reported that they would not be able to protect her. So here you have these women and some men who are simply advocating for their freedom and the right to drive. And as a result of that, have been thrown into jail, not just jail, but prison. And there they suffered even further abuse and trauma. Now, my understanding is that the women were held without trial. They were all charged with some form under a broad counterterrorism law there. They were accused of sharing information with foreign diplomats and journalists. So those were the charges that they were all charged with. So with respect to Lujane, she was arrested the second time in, give me one second. She was arrested the second time in May of 2018. And she was sentenced to a 5-year, 8-month sentence under that counterterrorism law there. And she ended up serving 3 years. So she was released on a conditional release with a 5-year travel ban and other restrictions. And she also remains under close government watch. So she was released in 2021. With respect to Samar Badawi, she was released on June the 26th, 2021, after serving 3 years. She also was a human rights defender who was advocating for the right for women to vote and drive, and also abolish the male guardianship system there. So for those of you who don't know, in Saudi Arabia there is a law where women are not allowed to freely move about unless they have a male guardian with them. So that male could be their husband, their father, it could even be their own child, which would be significantly younger than them, but they must be accompanied by a male. And so there's attempts to change that law as well in Saudi Arabia. And with respect to Aziza Al Youssef, she was also detained on May the 18th. along with Lou Jane and the others, uh, as well as Iman Al Nafjan. Um, and I believe Iman, I'm not sure if both Aziza and Iman or just Iman, but one of them, if not both of them, were released in March of 2019 after serving 10 months. And the other two, Shadan Al Orizi and Naf Al Dosari, I could not find specific information that pertained to them being released or not, so they may have also been released. Then again, they may also still be incarcerated. And as some of the other human rights organizations stated, there were far more people detained than what was reported. Now, whether those individuals are still incarcerated or not, I'm not sure of that information either. So, in this interview, they interviewed several prominent women in Saudi Arabia, and all of them stated that, these women and men, but specifically they were talking about the women and how they were arrested and how these were, upstanding women within the community, that, these women were simply, human rights activists. They were simply trying to advocate for the freedoms, certain freedoms to take place, or changes to take place in Saudi Arabia, which are freedoms that those of us who are born in other countries automatically have. I mean, if you think about a woman not being able to drive here in America, if women weren't allowed to drive here, virtually nothing would get done or accomplished. So, something so simple that we take for granted, other women are having to fight for and sacrifice even their freedoms for. But there were reports from the women, some of the women that were interviewed, that, that these women should have never been detained. That they were peacefully advocating for women's rights to drive. And there was one woman that spoke about how the right to drive, that the women's rights movement there is not just about giving women the right to drive, that's just the beginning of so many changes that need to take place. These women have now become a source of strength for other women in Saudi Arabia. And one of the ladies stated that because of how things happened, with them being incarcerated and subjected to abuse within the penal system, that this was an attempt to basically silence their voices, to leave them broken and silenced, so that they would not continue to speak out concerning the situation. They also felt like the government may have been sending a message to women not to ask for more rights. So, these were some of the comments of the women that were interviewed in the YouTube video that I saw. One of the other things that was mentioned is just how, although the women have been released, at least the ones that I specifically spoke about, how many of their releases are temporary. Okay, so from what I found out, um, they have not officially gone or had a trial concerning the charges. The releases are temporary releases. And again, as it stated, they are still under strict government observation. And one of the things that's also concerning is the families are concerned about retaliation, um, even against some family members of theirs. They have some concerns that uh, their families may be, or different family members may be targeted as a form of retaliation. Okay, so that is the basic information that I wanted to present. Again, I'm not here to cast stones. I believe there's work to be done in the area of human rights uh, and women's rights um, in all nations. Um, we are still not where we need to be. Some countries, some nations are further along than others, but I'm not here to cast stones. I'm just here to present and make you aware of the situation that took place there. Because again, when you live in certain countries, um, we have certain freedoms and take for granted certain freedoms and rights and privileges that we have that other women in other countries don't have. And so I'm just simply here to bring awareness to the situation. And, of course, one of the things that gripped me about this story is, again, the abuse that these women suffered while they were incarcerated. Um, these women were simply trying to uh, advocate for human rights, for women's rights, uh, and yet they were thrown into prison. Um, and they suffered even more abuse and more trauma. And so that really just touched my heart and tugged at my heart. I often say that, there's a saying that freedom is free, and it is, but I also believe that freedom costs somebody something. And for those women, in my book, they're heroes. In my book, they're brave. Um, their courage to stand up for what is right in a system that is not necessarily uh, accepting of the changes that perhaps need to take place. Just lets me know how brave they are, how strong they are, and I'm just so very proud of what uh, what they've accomplished, in spite of what they may have gone through um, and suffered for freedom. Now, the ban for women driving in Saudi Arabia has been lifted. So women are now allowed to drive. So something good did come out of this, horrible, horrible situation or unfair situation. So again, I just wanted to present this information and make you all aware of something that really it caused me to pause. It caused me to stop and pay attention. So I pray that it does the same for you. Um, I want to encourage you to watch the other two videos that will be posted in reference to this. Um, as always, I'm so grateful and so appreciative for you tuning in, and thank you so much for listening. God bless you.